A year ago I couldn't have sat where I am now, because I would have very quickly been smothered in ants. The ant in question is Tapinoma, and presumably Tapinoma magnum. It's the same species that we have at the nearby Dukery's Garden Centre, which is about 5 or 6 miles from this location here in Worksop. I find these Tapinoma ants, whichever species they ultimately turn out to be absolutely fascinating. There's more to them than just an ant nest, one big ant nest, because that one big ant nest is made up of a number of ant nests, and this year has proved something especially interesting. They move. As I mentioned, this area of paving last year was smothered in ants. The whole area here in this car park was just riddled with entrance holes, and there were trails going off to my left and to your right. Not an ant this year, and that's because, as I say, they've moved, or are moving, and they're moving from this area of paving within the car park to that area of paving further into the car park. That was used at some time last year, but it then got vacated, and it was this nearest area of paving that was occupied. There were trails going across to the left to underneath the cotoneaster and the curbstone that's underneath that, but for some reason they're now occupying that far area of paving, and there are columns going off in all directions. Well, here's that far area of curb. That's a little island of curbs and bricks, and as you can see from the amount of sand, all the sand underneath those bricks is being removed and put on top of those bricks. There's a huge amount of work been done here. There was sand here last year, but not an ant. It's very different now though. There are lots of entrances, but it's the pure amount of excavation work from behind the curbs and underneath the bricks that shows that this is more or less the centre of Tapinoma's territory here. Off to the left there are numerous trails, but there's also a trail going off to the right to a small island of curb which at one time held a tree. But all down the roadside down here there are trails and trails of workers. And here's one of the entrances, and I've noticed that there are some brood being carried by these workers as they're moved around. It's such a complex system, it must be. You can see the ants coming in from at the bottom of the screen, but there are ants also coming in along both sides of the curb. There's so many trails formed by this Tapinoma, and you may be able to see the well-worn tracks coming away from the curbstone, almost like little miniature motorways. It's a super system, it really is. And these aren't the only ants that do that, but They seem very good at it. And there's a veritable motorway of Tapinoma going up the silver birch tree here, from which they'll obviously be deriving honeydew off aphids. But it's a very tight column. It's the only column on this tree. The trunk is about 6 inches in diameter, and it's a very narrow motorway of ants going up and down. As many of you will know, I've had a lifetime interest in ants. Always have for as long as I can remember. And I've kept them over that time, studied them and just watched them. They absolutely fascinate me. And it's their ability to work together that perhaps impresses me more than anything. Each of the hundreds of thousands of workers that will be making up these colonies here in this Worksop car park have their own task to do, and they all do it apparently without question, without argument, without disagreement. It's a super system, and even though Tapinoma magnum, or whichever species of Tapinoma these ultimately turn out to be, are an unwanted invasive, to me it looks like they are here to stay, and we have to learn to live with these. Their extermination is extremely difficult, and that's been proved to be the case at the Dukery's Garden Centre. But while ever these ants are here, I'll keep coming back and just admiring them. But it surprised me that this year the main centre of the colony has moved from that of last year. What will happen in 2027? Will these ants have another surprise waiting for me in a year's time?